Continuing where we left off from the last video, what we want to do now is we want to move on from discrete, and notice this is discrete. The reason we know it is because the number of customers is a whole number, and then the frequency is also a whole number. But it won't always be the case that you'll have that with a histogram. And so we're going to get into an example where you don't. So we're going to talk about a couple things before we do that, though. So when you have continuous data, you use these things called classes, which is basically your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 from the last one on the left, which isn't the frequency. And you break them into categories, and you label them based on intervals. You have an upper limit, which is the highest value for each class, and then you got a lower class limit, which is the lower limit for each class. The class width is the difference between those two numbers. Oops, sorry. And one final thing to keep note is you want to keep the class width uniform and basically the same distance in all cases, except for if it's open-ended. For instance, if a survey has no upper or lower class limit, then we can make the exception to the class width. So let me show you an example of what that means. An open-ended example is, notice that the ages are from 10 to 19, 20 to 29, 30 to 39, which is all 10 years, and then 40 and over. So 40, 50, 60, 70, it's everything else. That's okay in this instance because that's what an example of an open-ended width would be for that. But notice that the majority of them are the same width, and that's how yours should be too. So, important information. The process goes like this. Look at the range of the data, which is the highest data value subtracted from, and you subtract the lowest data value from it. That will give you a better estimate of how big your width for each class should be. If you look at the largest data value, or if you look at that range and then decide how many classes you want, you can just simply divide by a number. Usually we use 5 or more classes for any data, or maybe even 4. 4 or more is probably good. You wouldn't want to do 2 though, because that would be too little, and 3 would also probably be too little. Set the width to ensure that the upper and lower limit for each class do not intersect, meaning you don't have, for instance, let's say 5 is the lower or the upper limit for one. You don't start on 5 for the next one. You start at 5.01 or something like that, so that they don't overlap. And then once you've made the width, make a list of classes with their widths so that all your data will fit. So if we were given this data based on Roth IRAs, there's a lot of numbers here, but it wouldn't be convenient to make a discrete value for each of these because there's so many different ones that it'd be really hard to graph all of this on a histogram in individual spots. So we can kind of group them and clump them together based on how far apart they are. And with that, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to notice that the highest value is 19.43, the lowest is 8.28. And so if we want to create our lower class limit at 8, because that's a little bit lower than 8.28, and it will ensure that we get all the values included. And it also won't give us any weird starting and ending points. So the example in the book uses a class width of 1, and there's 12 classes. We're going to use a class width of 2, which is going to obviously give us 6 classes because we have used twice as many. And so if we set our class width at 2, we have from 8 to 9.99, so you basically add 2. You have from 10 to 11.99. Notice that 9.99 ends right before 10, and so on and so forth for all the other ones. And we'll have 6 of them, and then we're going to actually do this in this next step. So let me end the show real quick. We go to this. I have the data in front of me, so I'm going to set up my class. My classes, we have 8. Oops. 8. Oops. What's it doing? So we have 8 to 9.99, 10 to 11.99, 12 to 13.99, 14 to 15.99, 16 to 17.99, and 18 to 19.99. Okay, So we've got all that, and remember we're making a histogram. And let's see the frequencies they've given us. Anything that falls between 8 and 8.99, there was only two values on that whole chart, and that would be the first one 8.28 and whatever the other number was. So that's 2 zeros on here, 13, and we might even have 20. So let's make sure we have enough up till 20. So let's do 0, let's do 5, 10, 15, and 20. You'll see where I got 20 from here in a minute when I go ahead and start doing this. So notice here they're doing 8 to 8 and 8 to 8.99 and 9 to 9.99 separately. Obviously that's because their width is 1. Our width is 2, so we're going to end up doing these two together. So that means we're at 4. So we draw this at 4. For the next one, 10 to 9.9, 11.99, that's 5. So we can just go right ahead and do that. Make sure the width is about the same. We're just trying to be consistent here. Oh, that's a little bit crooked, so I guess it's because this bottom line is crooked too. Let me redo that real quick. So if we go like this, I guess it's still crooked, but let's do that. The next one is going to be these two. That's 6 and 13. That's 19. Okay, so that's up here. That's where I said 20 earlier because I kind of guessed. I pictured 13 and 7 being added together. We've got 7 and 3. That's 10. So that's right here. We've got 1 and 0. That's right here. Oh, what happened? 1, 2, 3, 4. I guess I just didn't go far enough for this one. Okay, so we've got this one. Sorry, this should be 1, so this should be all the way over here. And this one's also 1, so that should be all the way over here. So they match up as follows. Obviously, I'm just indicating which one goes where, just so that you can see them. Okay, so we've plotted these. And if we compare that to the one with the width of 1, you can kind of see that this one has more shape to it. Obviously, that's because they were clumped together. Here's obviously 8, 9, 10, 11, and so on and so forth up till 19. And you can sort of see how they look similar in many ways. So if you're doing continuous, guys, you just kind of have to pick your class width. And then figure out which ones go where, they belong to what, and then draw the picture. I hope this helps, guys. There is practice on this on the homework. I'll start another video to get going on the next part of this PowerPoint. Thank you, guys.